welcome all the students to the fifth webinar. The topic of today's webinar is globalization in the post-COVID era. There are a lot of questions pertaining to the state of globalization in relation to the impact of COVID-19. Some of the questions are, will COVID-19 affect globalization? With several countries and regions under lockdown, what will happen to the global trade? And what will be the impact of COVID-19 on India's global trade? So to answer these questions, we have with us today Dr. M. Karthik, Assistant Professor IP Hyderabad. He is an expert in international business management, international brand management and international marketing. He is also the coordinator of the PGDM International Business Program at IP. He has done extensive research on globalization and bottom of the pyramid markets. We also have with us Professor R.K. Mishra, Director IP Hyderabad, Professor S.S. Murthy, Dean IP, Mr. Vineet, who is working with Deloitte and is an alumnus of IP. We also have three students with us, Mr. Abhijit, Ms. Simran and Ms. Vaishnavi. I welcome everyone of you for this webinar. So before we start the session, I request Professor Mishra to say a few words about this webinar.
Thank you, Professor Karthik. Let me welcome all my colleagues here, especially Professor Karthik, who is doing this webinar, and also Dean of the Institute of Public Enterprise, Professor S.S. Murthy, and then our bright students over there. I think it's a very important webinar, in the sense that when you talk of COVID, I think the question of globalization comes both back and forth. On the one side, you have now the US, and US was the greatest proponent of globalization. The wave of globalization started in 1990, and next 10 or 15 years, we're talking only about globalization. And on the other side, I think you see that US, which had taken the foremost position, now is shrinking in terms of power. Because US GDP used to be 50% of the total GDP of the world. Now that 50% has come down to 20-25%. Therefore, US has weakened. And many other power blocks, they are coming up. We are seeing on the one that China is there now. China is wanting to assert, and China has given an open kind of challenge to US. And US has been challenging China. So China is for globalization now. We have seen the UK has withdrawn its support from WHO. It has also withdrawn its support from WTO. On the other hand, you see China, is taking the lead. India has taken a somewhat middle position, because now we are going to WHO very soon, I think, and WHO is going to be restructured. You also see there are many other countries like European Union. European Union has about 28 countries, and the European Union supports, I think, globalization. At the same time, when you talk of many countries in Asia, they are against globalization, and some countries have benefited from this COVID. I think, for instance, now Vietnam is coming up as a very great, nation. They are becoming competitive. They are doing very well, and small countries like Philippines, they have started doing very well. So when you talk globalization created a situation of mobility of labor on the one hand, mobility of capital on the other hand, and also mobility of goods. Mobility of labor, mobility of capital, and mobility of goods created more and more jobs in the world, created more and more employment in the world, created more and more exchange of services and goods, I think, in the world, brought down, I think, the costs, richer. Their standard of living, they went up. Their national GDP, they went up. But when COVID came, COVID has put, I think, everybody, it is called gharwas. Everybody is in home. I think they just can't come out. So now the question of, manufacturing, I think, how to produce more, and through globalized effort, how can we send more to others, and how can we get, what they produce at the cheap rate here. I think that has come under great, a great problem now. So therefore, I think exchange of goods is becoming more and more difficult. And therefore, now we have been talking Prime Minister's slogan of Atmanirbhar. Now I think production skills will undergo a change, employment skills will undergo a change, tariffs will undergo a change, duties will undergo a change, and proportion of tariffs and duties in GDP undergo a change. Mobility of labor, I think that will index will adaptability index, I think, suffer very, very greatly. They are, I think, very, very interesting questions. And let us see, I think, what can we do? I think global supply chains are suffering now. For instance, now Indian pharmaceutical industry there was doing well. uh, exporting, but I think many product things are not being produced because the amount of intermediate goods which should have been coming from China. And now on the other hand, now you can see Australia is there now. Australia and China now they have they are on the war path. Asia and Pacific rather. Australia and India they are leading Asia and Pacific. On the other hand, China is on this side. South China, South China Sea problems. All these are very very interesting things, and I'm very sure Professor Karthik, who is heading this program of international business for last 8 to 9 years, and who has done his PhD in this area, has been abroad in this area, and got, I think, the best case study award from Sweden. To add to that, his paper on US China trade war, I think, has appeared in some Scopus journal, I think, which I think is a highly journal. So I hope, I think, that we look forward to, we'll have a very good, I think, so much good for, I think, from him, and I think, remove our area, of ignorance, I think, a bit today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you
sir.
very much.
I also request Professor Murthy to give some insights about this webinar.
Respected director and my esteemed colleagues, Professor Karthik and Professor Prashant Raman, Professor Rakesh, and my beloved students here, and also beloved prospective students of IPE. We are very happy to get connected with you during this COVID situation. Otherwise, we would have met on August 1st for orientation program. But we want ourselves get connected with you. That's the reason we have started webinar series. It is the 5th in series of webinars. And today, Karthik addressing the students on this topic. Globalization, it has actually, we say, necessity is the mother of invention. So it has opened up many opportunities for India. Of course, in a situation where many countries may exit from China, and we have to think of filling that gap. India should get more opportunities. Fortunately, India has got very good relations with other countries. That has been proved, and heads of various countries supporting India and India's stand. And the way Indian leadership handled the COVID situation has also given positive image about India, the way such a large country, like such a large democracy, how it is done, how disciplined people are. Almost for 3 months, they are ready to accept the lockdown, whereas in other countries, we see people opposing, they coming out on the streets. So we, after looking into the economy, after 2 months, slowly economy is opened, lockdown is relaxed, so that the economy is not affected badly, and we are getting to the normalcy. So in this context, in what best way we can utilize this opportunity? See, we have great rural Indian market, which has not been tapped yet. And the infrastructure has been developed in rural India now. And in many villages, you find cold storage facilities available. And there is a facility of storing the products, whatever is produced in that rural locality. And we should also connect with international world through online market. And we should train people and see that no people, they not only can sell in India, but abroad. And also facilitate in selling these products abroad through proper mechanism. So at village level, we should help people with some technical support and taking care of export trade. And some of our students also, they were helping their families in export trade. So in India, if really we can come out with a policy of helping at the production place, the market production place means rural India. So we should have, if somebody is interested in exporting, we should provide like single window scheme like thing where everything is taken care. So he's not having any problem at all. If that is the case, imagine the amount of foreign exchange we can get. We have a lot of good products available in India. Already we are exporting many. But if more and more farmers think of exporting and more small and medium enterprises think of exporting the product and services, certainly India is going to be the leading country in the world economy. So with this brief opening remarks, I compliment Karthik and my colleagues for coming out with this webinar. I eagerly look forward for their comments. Wish you all the best, students. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much, sir. I request all the students, if they have any questions related to today's topic, they can post it by using the Q&A button. We'll respond to it at the end of the session. So over to you, Karthik, sir.
Thank you, Ramanji. Respected director, dean, my dear colleagues and students. Good morning to all of you. I welcome you to the session on globalization in the post-COVID era. So the session is going to be for the next 60 minutes or so, and I will be speaking on the issue and also act as the moderator for the topic. And along with me, we have three students, who are studying PGDM International Business, and we also have Mr. Vinith, who passed out from IPE, in 2016. He works for the Deloitte now. So moving into the topic, this topic has been in the discussion for quite some time now, and especially ever since the lockdown was announced. I have seen so many authors writing on this topic. A lot of discussions in TV news channels, a lot of debates, people writing articles in newspapers discussing about what will happen to globalization. Will it come to an end? What is going to happen to jobs which are based on globalization, because as you must be knowing, there are so many jobs that globalization has created. What will happen to them? There is a panic. There is a panic among people, not only people of our country, but there is a panic throughout the world, and they no one has a clue, as to understand what can be the impact of this pandemic. So when we have so many, such questions, so much of fear and so much of uncertainty, uh, we felt, we will, address on this particular topic to clear the air on a few issues which people, uh, discuss, people fear, and people think that, this is the end of the road. We have, found, based on a few research which we have done to give answers to such questions. So for the benefit of the,
Rakesh?
సార్ కార్తిక్ సార్ దగ్గర ఏదో నెట్ ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చినట్టుంది సార్.
అవునా?
సార్
Sir, if I may speak.
Wait. Karthik is.
Yes, sir. Sir has some connectivity issue, I guess.
No. Let him continue. Please wait. Karthik? Karthik?
hello.
Karthik.
I think I'm joining back, sir. I think it got disconnected.
You are
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, sir, I spoke to him,
Yeah.
sir. He's joining back. One second.
Yeah.
Some connect.
Yeah, I joined back. So we
Yes,
have
sir. Please continue.
we have a lot of questions with regard to what will happen post COVID. So let me tell you that this is not the first time that we are debating on this topic. What will happen to globalization? Because in the past also several times there were discussions and debates on what will happen to globalization. Because for every small thing that happens in the world, people start discussing that this is the end of the road for globalization. But if you look at history, it is very clear that globalization has survived. You may recall what happened in 2007, when there were when there was a big crisis, the subprime crisis. People felt that's the end of globalization, but globalization survived. And you may also recall in 2007-8, the Sensex crashed almost 13-14,000 points, and people felt that's the end of the road. And foreign institutional investors withdrew money from the Indian stock markets, and we felt that's the end. But then they all came back, and India started shining again, and you may also recall, when Brexit happened, when Brexit was in the news, people discussed about, that that's the end of globalization. Countries are wanting to be on their own and they don't want to accept globalization. But Brexit also happened, and then globalization survived. So I assume that even in the post-pandemic, post-COVID, uh, globalization will survive. And I have got a few facts to tell you that globalization will survive. But before I tell you, my point of view on how globalization will not suffer. It may have some impact, but unlike what people dispute and unlike what people think, that it will never come to an end, is what is my opinion. And if you have read articles in the newspaper in the recent past, they are talking of three situations. One is, three scenarios. One is, you know uh, whether globalization will completely come to a stop, and it will lead to localization instead of globalization. This is scenario number one, which people are discussing. Scenario number two is regionalization instead of globalization. This is scenario number two, which people are discussing. And scenario number three is a continuation of globalization. So, these are the three possibilities which people are, discussing, about what will happen in the post COVID era. And as I was discussing, just before my connection got disconnected, for the benefit of the audience, to give you a brief of how all this process started, how we entered in the road of globalization. It all happened in 1991 with our government relaxing norms for private investments. You must be aware of the license raj system which was there in place, and how liberalization and privatization and eventually globalization has led to the kind of world that we see today. Because if you speak to your grandparents, if you speak to your parents, they would tell you the kind of days that they had, like, to make a phone call they had to wait for almost to make an to get a telephone connection from BSNL, they had to wait for 5 years. And to get a Bajaj scooter, my grandfather told me, my even my father told me that he had to wait for almost 7 years in the waiting list. Would you imagine, to get a Bajaj scooter, people waiting in the queue for almost 7 years. And this is something which today's generation can't even imagine, because today's generation, as we all understand, is short of patience, and we don't have patience to even wait for a minute, forget about waiting for almost 7 years for a two-wheeler. And we had limited choice, you know when it if we had to choose an automobile, it was between ambassadors and Fiat. But today we have variety, we have so many, so much of choice, and we can choose from so many brands, so many global brands are available to us, and we are free to choose anything of our choice. How did it all happen? It all happened because of globalization. Thanks to globalization, that we enjoy things that we enjoy today, and it has all happened because of globalization. We are spoiled for choice because we have so many, because globalization has offered so many brands, global brands, to all of us. Now the question is, because of this pandemic, people think that globalization will come to an end, in the sense uh, countries are debating that they should be self sufficient, and they should not rely too much on other countries. And they should make things which they need. But my apprehension is, to some extent it is possible, but beyond a point, we cannot we cannot avoid globalization. And when I discussed about three scenarios, you know the first one is globalization to localization, and of course our government is talking about it for quite some time. And the second scenario is, globalization to regionalization. That has also happened. You look at the kind of regional trade agreements that are there between countries. That always has happened. And the third one is, the continuation of globalization as it is. As we have it today, it will continue. And in my point of view, uh, there is more likelihood for scenario number three, that is continuation of globalization. I'll tell you why do I say this. Maybe towards the end of the session, I will tell you, why I say this. But let me also tell you, uh, COVID-19 has disrupted, the trade. And as Professor Mishra already mentioned, there is a shrink which we also, which we already witness in world trade. America is getting into recession, and as you all know that when America sneezes, India catches cold, and rest of the world also catches cold. Now it is all the more dangerous if someone sneezes, and especially if America sneezes, it is all the more dangerous now. And America is facing recession, and it will definitely have its impact on other countries and especially India. But we also have to remember that it can also bring us a lot of new opportunities. We should also remember that these are temporary things which disturb us, but this is something which India will get over in quite some time. So before I give my points as how this is going to continue, uh, let me introduce to you Ms. Vaishnavi. Vaishnavi, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity.
Vaishnavi, she is a first year student of PGDM International Business. Of course, she will be going to the second year in the coming academic calendar, and she would give you a brief introduction of what globalization is and her point of view on how this COVID-19 is going to have an impact. Vaishnavi?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Am I audible to everyone?
Yeah, Vaishnavi.
Okay, sir. So good morning, Professor Mishra, our respected dean, dear faculty members, and my dear friends, and my new friends also who will be joining the session maybe from September, I believe. So I would request the host to kindly enable my screen share so that I can just picturize what I say in the meanwhile. I request the host to please kindly enable the screen share so that I can put on the PPT, which I have prepared so that I can give a pictorial presentation also at the same time.
I think you will be having a share screen option, no, Vaishnavi?
Yeah, just enable all participants. It is only for the host as of now.
Okay. I think Rakesh sir is not online.
No, sir, there is this screen share option. You will get an arrow. When you click there, you will get 3 options. So just put all participants.
Because I'm not the host actually. One second.
Honey?
Sir, Chepan sir.
Enable the share screen. Enable the share screen option to all the panelists.
1 second. Vaishnavi.
Yes, sir.
Share screen change. Now you can
Yeah.
do.
Okay. So guys, can you see my screen now? I hope it is visible. So we'll be discussing upon the impact on globalization and basically the impact after coronavirus. But before I actually go and start with the presentation, my name is Vaishnavi Gop and I'm currently pursuing PhDM in International Business, and I have been very much I have got an opportunity to serve as a class representative, and when you guys join, hopefully we'll meet and we'll have chit chat and we'll discuss upon this issue again as well. So what went wrong? What was the reason? But before I get into this, let's get into with the agenda. So we'll be discussing about the origin of globalization in Indian economy and what was the need of the hour and the dynamic steps taken towards these reforms, the LPG reforms, which we commonly know it is as it is. So the globalization and the framework, what is the element of globalization, what all the sectors which have been impacted with the globalization, and then we'll be looking at the corona cutthroat, that what after the corona, what have been the situations and how we have been trading, and is it a boon to India? And I would rather like to know your views maybe in this meeting, or maybe when we meet afterwards, because as the time permits, we'll have to take it forward. So basically, when we look at the Indian economic crisis, which happened in the year 1991, this was because of the poor economic policies which was sustaining, resulting in trade deficit. So trade deficit is basically a situation which arises because of the improper balance which has been created with the imports and export. Now, I believe that I'm catering to a smart and a vigilant audience, but since the topic relates me to this to these words, I would just like to give a brief about it. So it's basically import is basically when we borrow things in the return of value of money paid. So when we import items, we are actually purchasing it from the other countries, and when we export things or the items and the services or the products, I would say, we are just giving it in return of the value of money which we received. So basically, this has created an imbalance which is called as a trade deficit and the fiscal deficit, which was about 12.7% at that time. So we had to borrow money to fill the balance of payments, and then the imports swell. We have kept on importing things rather in exporting. We have not made our footprints in that. So this is why where the trade deficit occurs, and also we were facing a tremendous decline in the foreign exchange reserves, and there was simultaneously so many things happening in different parts of the world, the Gulf War, because of which the crude oil prices rose, and we were unable to clear the balance of payments. So this has actually created a sharp depreciation in the rupee value, which Indian rupee was facing a tremendous depreciation. And then even the World Bank and the IMF denied us giving the loan so that we could clear off the balance of payments which we were holding already. So what we had to do was we had to mortgage the country's gold, which was airlifted, I would say. So the Reserve Bank of India gave a permission to airlift 47 tons of gold to the Bank of England and 20 tons of gold to the Bank of Union Bank of Switzerland, which was worth rupees $600 million. So we just mortgaged our gold reserves and got this much amount of money to sustain for a week over. But then initially it was contained, but later on we continued facing the challenges. And in the meantime, the government changed, and we had this Shri PV Narasimha Rao, who took charge as a prime minister in the June, and then roped with Manmohan Singh as a finance minister. So there comes the LPG reforms, because we were not having enough forex reserves. Neither we had so much amount of strong financial platform with India left with us. So we had to go with no other option but the LPG reform, which is basically liberalization of rules and norms and privatization. We were just shifting from the government hold and just keeping the government out of business, and just letting private player enter do the business and just lead the privatization steps, and going ahead with reducing and increasing the manufacture sector. Then later on we had this globalization. So basically what there comes the word globalization, which we were first introduced in. We as in India was first introduced to globalization, and then it is a process of basically the process of interaction and integration among people, companies, and the government worldwide. So under globalization we have so many things, like it's just a word, but it's, I would say, you understand it as a global economy. It's the exchange of products, services, tourism, trade, investments, FDIs, and whatnot. Some burger which you eat, maybe the raw material must have been coming from Italy, I would say, or the KFC which you eat, the chicken must be coming from somewhere else. So This is how we just got into the world of globalization, which has tremendously helped Indian economy to sustain and move ahead. Though we have been facing some export problems still, but hopefully this we are stepping towards the change. So elements of globalization, like I just mentioned you, moving ahead, we are talking about this COVID-19. So what actually happened was it has originated from China, and it has created a devastating impact on some big sharks, I would say. And it is not only about the tragedies which has been happening because of the sickness and death causing and the death ratio, but it is also an omnipresence of the mass scale threat which we are facing. And we all have been holding so much amount of uncertainties and fear which has been accompanying us towards engaging with some foreign thing, or some foreign or a strange product, I would say, some product coming from China. We are just restrained towards that product, towards using that product. So this has been the whole scenario. So obviously the imports and export and the trades which is happening will have an impact because of the COVID-19 pandemic, I would say. So majorly impacted, although all the sectors have been impacted badly, but I would just keep emphasis on trade and tourism and work in education. So just have a look at this PPT, which talks about has globalization passed its peak? I would say yes, but then a decline of biggest decline after the economic crisis after 2008. So what do you understand by the global trade? It's nothing but the amalgamation of all the import and export activities happening all around the world. So when we sum it up, it's just a global trade which is happening. In a layman language, I would tell you, you'll get to know about more about it when you pursue your PGDM in IB. But for now, we'll just stick to this thing. So these are some import items. Because of short of time, I would not go into this. We'll just quickly go ahead. So basically, what has happened is when we look at the tourism industry, it is being informed by the World Travel and Tourism Council that travel to a standstill. The travel had come to a standstill, and the major parts of the countries or the world, I would say, Italy, parts of Europe, parts of America, has been badly impacted because of COVID-19, because they were Italy, I would say, was Europe, I would say, was majorly dependent on tourism for the source of revenue for them, source of income for them. So this has actually created a massive job loss of near about 75 million jobs have been lost, and the revenue is total in numbers as $2.1 trillion. So you can imagine how hard this coronavirus has impacted the travel history. And the question then arises: is there a light at the end of the tunnel? That can't be commented at this particular moment. It's very early to comment on that. But then these are some of the information which I found it good. It is about the percentage change in the revenue from 2019 to 2020. So it's basically telling about the airline losses. And then we have some hotels which have been badly impacted by the COVID-19, because this tourism industry basically depends on the hotels and the airline. I'm talking about the world tourism. And then this comes the Donald Trump to temporarily suspend immigration to the U.S. coroner concern. So basically, over U.S. corona concerns. So basically, what happens is, what is immigration? It is the action of coming to live permanently in the foreign countries. Like you all must be aware of it. We go to foreign countries for our education purpose, for work purpose, or for some other purpose also. So what has happened is the U.S. has suspended all the immigration and till uncertain times because of this coronavirus, because they want to go to the nationalism or the localism which we were talking about. So after that decade of growth for the world trade and global tourism and the international cooperation, globalization hit a couple of roadblocks this year, which can be called as I would say, a re-emergence of nationalism or localism and protectionism. So this is something the repercussion, or this is something an outcome of this impact, I would say. Then we have also a positive impact going on simultaneously. Apple might shift a part of its iPhone production from China to India. It's because they get this cheap labor, raw material, low investments, IT support, and in this low investment, they get the high results. So basically, at one nooks and corners, there have been a drastic impact which has been impacted badly. But then at the same time, we are actually also expecting a good impact. So it is very early to comment on what exactly is the solution. We are on the middle of it, I would say. And then this is when we talk about this trade and commerce which is happening all over the world. There was this news you might have also seen on your television screen, which talks about the Indian export 50 million hydroxychloroquine tablet to US for COVID-19 fight. So this has been about a part of export, I would say, which India has done. But then later on, India plans to import the COVID-19 test kit from US. So it is basically a part of import which we are taking. So these both go hand in hand, both ways this trade happens. And then uh, when initially our profound coordinators were speaking about will the globalization come to an end, I would say this is something would not happen because at the present scenario when we are already facing high peaks of corona impacted places around the country, around the world, the global trade has already been continuing and already been happening in spite of some disbeliefs. But yeah, this will continue ever after. And then China sends third group of medical experts to Italy. Why I have cited some of these examples is because the whole and sole purpose of this presentation was to make you aware about the global trade and the globalization. A global trade is a part of a globalization, and these by citing these many examples, I think you'll get a proper picture of what has been happening. And then our textile industry is also hit is also badly hit because of these imports coming from China has been put to a halt. And then there is this story which came, which is about the Kamal Dalmia, who has been a local manufacturer of textile, says that because the import of the ink which we the chemical and the raw material which we get which we import from China has come to a halt, the local manufacturers have actually increased their prices of chemicals from 25% to 30%, and then there is an increase in the produce. So I would say everything, every nooks and corners of the trade and commerce and the manufacturing and the service oriented industry is tied up with a thread, and globalization itself is a very vast topic. But then when we focus on trade, corona virus certainly have had a bad impact for present era, I would say, but then later on it might have a good impact also. So let's hope for that. And thank you so much. This is all I had to be presented for today, and I would request Karthik sir to please take over. I hope this information which I tried to provide in some short duration of time would have been helpful for you guys. And when we meet, we'll talk about it later. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Vaishnavi. That was a wonderful presentation. I think you covered, the basics of globalization, and you gave sufficient examples, for the audience to understand, on the topic.
Yes, Karthik, it was a scintillating presentation. I must compliment you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
You are a global ambassador. Peace.
All in your guidance and Karthik sir's guidance, I would
I
say.
think we need to work together. I think you are a bright star, and we should do much more work with you.
Thank you.
Very
so
good
much.
presentation, Vaishnavi. Congrats.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it.
So as Vaishnavi said, there is definitely going to be an impact, but she also, told us that, there is going to be a positive impact also, especially in a few areas like, the textile sector. I have been reading in the news that, the textile sector is severely hit because of COVID-19. But on the other hand, I'm also reading a lot of news items which talk about India's potential to export technical textiles, where the COVID-19 has given us tremendous potential to export technical textiles, because as you must have seen, there is an increase in demand of the kits which are used by the paramedics. And
Karthik is an expert in the area of textiles. He has done a project for Government of India. He is doing another project for Human Rights Commission. And he comes from an area where you have the most modern 50 textile mills. And that area is around Coimbatore, Salem. You don't find such mills anywhere in the world. So he knows, I think, he knows the pulse, I think, of the textile industry. Yes,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
please.
So, I have read so many articles in the last 1 month about India's potential to export technical textiles, which otherwise was very, very less, pre-COVID. And post-COVID, I am sure that India's export growth in technical textiles is going to definitely increase, and we are going to have a major share in that. And with regard to what Vaishnavi presented about the tourism and hospitality industry, yes, of course, tourism and hospitality will definitely have a very big negative impact. It will take its own time, to heal, from what has happened. And many airlines are expected to, close. Many airlines are expected to file bankruptcy because of COVID-19. So the impact on travel and hospitality is definitely there. And Indian pharmaceutical companies have a very bright scope because of COVID-19. In case if you have invested in pharma funds, though all other funds are going down, pharma funds look up. It's a very big surprise for people, especially when Sensex is going down so very badly. A few pharma companies are doing good.
Professor Murthy's all investments are in pharma only.
Murthy
Yes,
sir,
sir.
Investments are in non-pharma.
Fortunately, I have less investment in pharma. Fortunately or unfortunately.
Those people who
So with
invested
this-
money in pharma are in great form. Yes, Karthik, Professor Karthik, please continue.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I now invite, sir. There is another speaker. She's Simran. She's a second year student of PGDM IB.
Simran, I know, I think. Yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes,
Simran.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. This is Simran. Am I audible?
Simran, I think you have to be a bit louder.
Am I audible now?
Simran, you are screen friendly. You are not being seen on screen.
Sir, there is a little bit of connectivity issue. Am I audible, sir?
Simran, what I suggest is there is an audio setting there. So in the audio setting, just check whether the mic is in the full volume.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is.
Yeah.
Speak loudly.
Okay, sure, sir. So a
You
very
can
good
start
morning
now.
to everyone who's present here, and to all those who are going to join our college pretty soon. I would just like to say that may you have a great journey ahead of you. And just like when I joined international business, I was very happy to see that the kind of exposure and platform that we were given was something that prepared us for the future. And the engagement that we had in these 2 years, the real life examples that we were given, gave us a complete clear picture of how trade looks. And if you want to set up your own business tomorrow, you're completely ready for it. So I wish you all a great journey. And sir, is the share screen option enabled?
Yeah, it's enabled.
Okay, sir, thank you. So coming back to the topic for the presentation, that globalization in a post-COVID era. But before we understand that how globalization is going to look in future, as a lot of you are new, I thought I would introduce the word globalization to you and what it means so that you have a clear understanding for the topic. There are a few elements of globalization. Now, globalization consists of cross-border trade. It consists of capital flows, flow of data, exchange of people and labor, technology exchanges, and a lot of different things. Globalization means an interconnection or an interaction between different countries, between different governments, their companies. What happens with globalization is that there is access to a lot of goods and services which might not be available in your country. There will also be a lot of efficiency in that you will see in terms of the quality and in terms of standards that is going to be there. Now, coming to the current scenario that is there. See, unless and until you understand what the situation is today, to predict how it will look in future is quite impossible. So today we see that we're all living in a world of fear. Because when we talk about different countries who have been extremely powerful or who have shown supremacy in the past, talking about USA, Russia, or different countries like France, Germany, or UK, they were known to be advanced in terms of technology, in terms of their power of what they can do in trade. But now we see that these are the countries which are severely affected. And this image that they have been maintaining for years is probably going to change. How? That we are going to see in the presentation. Earlier on, as it was already mentioned by a lot of people, that there was a lot of dependence in terms of goods and services. Suppose you belong to a country where you are not accessible to certain goods and services. So what you do is you start importing. And if you are having enough of it, you start exporting it to other people. So when we were hit by a crisis, that is the same resort that we wanted to apply because that is how trade flows. So if you are a country who does not have enough of medical equipment, you import it from somewhere else. And if you have enough of, for example, testing kits, you start to export it. And that is what different nations around the world have started to do. Taking India's example, what happened in this situation was when we started importing our medical equipment or PPE kits or testing kits, we found out that they were not up to the safe standards or they were not properly fit for use. So in spite of being completely in need of it, we had to return it back. Now what happened after this was great because India started to realize its potential, the kind of efficiency it has. To those items which we never produced or whose production was nil, today we have started producing them in huge numbers. We are producing PPE kits, testing kits, masks, sanitizers, ventilators, and all of this has happened in just a span of few months. Now, what does this tell you? This tells or this shows a glimpse of how India can be a big name in terms of trade. That India is also capable of attracting different countries towards itself and that it has the capacity to cater to needs of different people. Talking about the different scenarios that can take place, the first scenario is localization instead of globalization. Now, what happens if there is localization taking place? There are different countries which will start to adopt some protectionism policies or try to put some trade barriers such that their domestic industry is protected and that whatever companies are set up in different countries come back to their home. I'll give you a small example. If there are US companies who are set up in China, the US now says that all those companies set up in China have to either shift to another country or come back to their home country so that the advantage cannot be given to some other nation. Now, what happens when such a shift takes place? If there was a US manufacturing giving jobs to a lots of Chinese people, what about their job opportunities? What about the goods and services that it was making available to those people? That is going to change. And now companies are going to shift to those countries which give them not only opportunity, but which also are more politically stable. The second scenario is that will there be regionalization instead of globalization? Now, regionalization is not something that has just started because of COVID. It has already been existing. What happens in regionalization is that there are groups of countries that come together and start to do trade amongst themselves. So within this region, probably the trade will not be affected so much, but maybe they will be giving competition to some other region who wants to do either export or import to any other country. The third scenario is continuation of globalization. And as per my view, I think this is what is going to happen. For sure, globalization is going to continue. when we come out of the economic or financial crisis that is happening, once the markets have recovered, there will be continuation of globalization. But something that can't be ignored right now is what version of globalization are we going to see tomorrow? So I will be giving a few insights on that. What I feel is that there are countries who are yet developing and who are dependent on those nations who have developed. What about those countries? Because if there is no export or import to such countries, they surely don't have the capacity to produce it themselves. So, what is going to happen? How are they going to meet their needs? Is again going to be a very important question to address. Apart from that, the kind of technology, raw material, or skills that they will be looking to import will not be available to them. So, then how do they adopt different measures is a question mark right now in front of them. Another important aspect of international business is the procedures you need to follow or the documentation work that you need to do for importing or exporting your goods. So, as already mentioned, that there are going to be a lot of travel restrictions, a lot of change in procedures. So, probably there is a possibility that you might have updated certifications required or some advanced standards or protocols that you need to meet in order to export your goods somewhere else. So, the kind of capability you need to develop within your country to meet those high quality standards, to meet those certifications, to get those particular tests done that are required by the other country, and the kind of protective measures you would be required to take while you're producing and transporting those goods is going to change a lot in future, and that is going to determine that how your country will be capable of doing trade. The next thing is that a lot of experts right now are of the opinion that import substitution is going to be the the funda or the mantra of tomorrow's globalization. Now, what this word import substitution means in simple language is that rather than importing goods, you start buying goods within your own country or from your local domestic market. So there is development of domestic industry, and also because you're not importing, there will be a lot of foreign exchange that will be saved. So probably this also could be a new version that you will see in the trade tomorrow. What also needs to be looked up to is that the financial and economic slowdown that is happening around the world, or the political issues that are clearly visible, how are they going to determine the trade is also something that we need to look up to. Keeping today's situation in mind, it is quite questionable that what is going to be the transparency or dependency or even openness in trade. Because if you're not transparent within your trade partners, there are going to be rifts. And because of that, your trade is going to be affected. Another thing that a lot of traders need to be worried about today and in near future is what about the trade agreements that have already been started? Now, it is possible that maybe there is no proper production capacity, or there are financial constraints, or there is no proper availability of labor, because of which probably your trade agreements will not be fulfilled. So how are you going to deal with them in near future? That is also going to change the face of globalization. Now, wrapping up everything in just a few lines, there are a lot of factors affecting globalization and not just COVID. But if we see recent events like US companies asking companies to shift back their manufacturing units from China to any other South Asian nation, even including India, we see that countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Taiwan, these countries are becoming new destinations for trade. Whereas in the past, it was always US, China, or other countries that were holding this position. So, probably what we can see is that there is going to be a shift of power. There will be new players, there will be new rules, and for surely shift of power that is going to happen. And that is going to be a new version of globalization that probably that we will see. That's it from my side. And I hope I was quick and being helpful to give you a clear insight on the topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simran. It was a very good presentation, Simran.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have Mr. Vinith online?
Yes, I'm here.
Vinith,
Yes, sir.
Vinith, you may start your presentation.
Okay, sir. Sir, am I audible, sir? Am I audible to everyone?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are audible.
Yes, sir. Okay. So first of all,
You may
I would
introduce
like,
yourself.
my dear professors and my dear friends, I'm Vinit, a pass out of IP 2017 pass out. First of all, I'd like to thank Karthik sir, director sir, dean sir, and all my professors for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this webinar. As highlighted by Karthik sir and the Mr. sir, Murthy sir, I would like to add a few more points regarding the topic globalization post COVID-19. So, as mentioned by experts, it is said that. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
So, it is said that world will need a new template of globalization post COVID-19. It's not the end of globalization; rather, it's a new avatar of globalization that we need to have post COVID-19. So, even in this crisis time, we can see that there are a lot of opportunities. Say, for an example, for instance, the US-based company Zoom, the app which we are using right now, it provides video conference services that has started to gain ground in many European countries. The app is now being used for all sorts of meetings, other than business meetings as well. Its share valuation has indeed rocketed in recent times. Similarly, businesses that includes digital applications and technologies from e-commerce to cloud computing and online banking, all are vivid examples of firms that have seen an increase of activity since the outbreak of COVID-19. Interestingly, digital content providers such as YouTube, Amazon, and Netflix have also adjusted their streaming policy to help the telecommunication network in handling the surge in demand for films, series, and other online content. So we see that even during this crisis time, there are a lot of opportunities for us, which can even be used in a more refined manner post COVID-19. So, what about the road ahead after COVID-19? It's certain that we'll overcome this crisis. It's just a matter of time. We need to understand what we need to understand here is that COVID is a global issue. So, it requires global cooperation among countries across the globe to combat this issue. So, the significance of globalization lies here actually. The US has already announced the $2 trillion economic package for post crisis reconstruction. And at the same time, once the world recovers from crisis, it is crucial to create mechanisms to respond to disease through effective international cooperation. So in this context, the world can take inspiration from India, as India is exporting hydroxychloroquine in response to demand by other countries for treatment of COVID-19. Recently, the Indian government has decided to partially lift the ban on export of hydroxychloroquine, a drug that has garnered a global interest in the treatment and prevention of COVID-19. The drug drew global attention after US President Donald Trump called it a game changer and proposed its use for COVID-19 cases. Following this, India has been requested by the US and other 30 countries, including Brazil and several SAARC countries, for a supply of HCQ. India's decision to selectively export is a welcome step, as India would now be recognized as a global responsible stakeholder in the fight against the pandemic and reaffirms India's designation of pharmacy to the world. So it seems that globalization still has got a lot of opportunities post COVID-19. It's not like it's the end of globalization. It's just like it's a beginning of a new avatar for globalization. So there are a lot of opportunities as well that are awaiting us as far as globalization is concerned post COVID-19. So, and one negative impact that COVID-19 has made on globalization is disruption of global value chain, as it has already been highlighted. COVID-19 crisis is having a negative impact for corporations and businesses that have benefited from economic interdependence supported by cross-border supply chains. As we know, China is the world's largest production base and lies at the heart of many supply chains. We all know where did Corona and COVID-19 actually started from. It emerged from China actually. So since the outbreak of this coronavirus, many companies that had come to depend on China were hard hit. But as already been highlighted, we have a lot of opportunities actually to innovate, which can conveniently be used in a refined manner post globalization. So I would say the future of globalization is having a better future post COVID-19. So this is what I have to add from my end.
Thank you, Vinith. It was a brief presentation, but I think you made your point.
Yes.
I request, thank you very much again, Vinith. I request the next speaker, Mr. Abhijit, to join. Abhijit, are you there?
Good morning, sir. I'm here.
Yeah, good morning, Abhijit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone, my colleagues, my juniors, respected faculty. Thank you for giving me this responsibility. I would like to make a quick presentation here. Sir, if I may share the screen.
Yeah, you may.
Yes. Okay. Globalization post-COVID. Will it get revived or repressed? I remember Karthik sir teaching us about globalization since the day one of our international business commencement. He asked us what is globalization, and he gave us a very good example. Globalization is definition of Princess Diana's death, and every one of us were puzzled. Okay, how is Princess Diana's death concerned with globalization? How come? So he came up with this amazing answer. An English princess with an Egyptian boyfriend crashes in a French tunnel, driving a German car with a Dutch engine, driven by a Belgian who was drunk on Scottish whiskey, followed closely by Italian paparazzi on Japanese motorcycles, treated by an American doctor using Brazilian medicines. And this is sent to you by an American using Bill Gates technology, and you're probably reading this on your computer using Taiwanese chips and a Korean monitor, assembled by Bangladeshi workers in a Singapore plant, transported by Indian lorry drivers, hijacked by Indonesians, unloaded by Sicilian longshoremen, and trucked to you by Mexican illegals. That is globalization, my friends. That is the definition of globalization. And now let us talk about globalization post-COVID. Is it getting revived or getting repressed? This thought always struck my mind. If you don't know the past, you cannot understand the present, and you will not be prepared for the future. So we have to know few things which happened in the past. So there are few financial crises that happened in the world history. One of the most infamous crises is the financial crisis of 2007 and 8. It got a collapse of housing bubble in US, triggered most severe financial crisis since the Great Depression, which is from 1929 to 1939. Many financial institutions, investment bankers have been bankrupted. For example, Lehman Brothers have been collapsed. It took almost a decade for things to return to normal. Millions of people lost their jobs. Trillions of dollars have been wasted, and so on and so forth has happened. Financial crisis makes the economy more vulnerable to other negative shocks. We have seen trade wars in the late 2019, and now we are witnessing a pandemic war. We are not fighting with everyone. We are not fighting among ourselves. We are fighting with a virus. It causes unpredictable fall in world trade. Now, tourism contributes more to the global GDP than anything, than automotive manufacturing. Business travel facilitates international trade and investment. Now, when we see 45% of the countries have closed their borders and 90% of airlines are at risk. Probably when we are in 2000, we had this thought, okay, we'll be having flying cars by 2020. Now, the planes are not even flying. They're on the ground now. International airlines will soon boom. Local manufacturers have been given more importance. So collaboration with them can help us recover from the impact of the pandemic. Now, we have been globalized so much that we have a globalized virus. Viruses now are not subjected to national borders. We always found a way to travel far and wide from their point of origin. The Black Death has been carried by fleas living in the back of rats fleeing in grassland habitats due to climate change, rushed into more populated areas, and rode along the Silk Road with Mongol armies, traders, or the ships. In the same way, this virus has been transported everywhere by airlines, by the people who are flying inside the airplanes and everyone. The popular US media, I think, will soon go from calling world post 9/11 to post COVID 19. As the world runs short of masks, owing to dependency on Chinese manufacturers and countries leading the supply of pharmaceutical ingredients, bans exports and prioritizing the crisis handling at home. The fingers always point at one thing: globalization. This gives us a valuable lesson. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. We have put all our eggs in China, and let us and see what happened. All of the world has fallen into a financial crisis now. We are yet to see another depression. Hopefully, we will not see any job losses this time. This is a bend but won't break crisis. Here, I would like to conclude my presentation, and no, I have few more points to tell you. This is the economic growth estimated in 2020 by the World Economic Forum. When we see the blue indicates no COVID-19, where the world is seeing vast economic growth in 2020, and with the base case of COVID-19, the economic growth has been plummeting. And now in the pandemic scenario, the economic growth has gone into negatives. In the same way, the real year-to-year growth here has been represented. In 2019, the growth is going pretty well, and in 2020, the growth has fallen and even in negative in some countries. And in 2021, it is expected to bounce back. One thing what we have to remember is the world has seen 4 to 5 pandemics so far, and what do we remember of them? People have been recovered from pandemics. People have forgotten what the pandemics have done to them, and then we are living our lives. Just in the same case, after COVID-19, I feel the globalization will be established and new world order will be established, but the world will see a new normal. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Abhijit, for your brief presentation. It was really informative. Dear friends, we have come to the end of today's webinar. To conclude, let me tell you, I think you must be knowing a trade body, called as the WTO, World Trade Organization. For the benefit of the audience, let me tell you, World Trade Organization is a body which, which controls, world trade, which facilitates world trade. And WTO has predicted that the world merchandise trade could plummet between 13 and 32% this year following the impact of COVID-19. That's a big number. 32% is not a small figure. It is a big number. That means, there is definitely a very big impact. It also predicted that the adverse effects of COVID-19 on globalization may carry on for years together now. Like, say, for example, much like what happened in 2008 financial crisis, we could not come out of it that very quickly. It went on for quite some time, and up until I think 2013-14, the impact of 2008 financial crisis was seen. So similarly, the impact of COVID-19 on globalization is going to be there for years. It's not going to vanish quickly. There is no quick pill, for this crisis. So this is going to continue for quite some time now. And the World Bank data also suggests that the global trade has been stagnant uh, for quite some time now, and it will be stagnant, or it may take a nosedive, post COVID. All these things are definitely expected, and as some of the today's speakers already mentioned, that there is going to be a big impact on global tourism, uh, and the hospitality and travel industry is definitely going to have a very big impact, because even though the government is relaxing lockdown and government resumed flight operations, people are extremely scared of traveling, and I'm sure that people will not travel for the next 6 months, unless and until they find travel safe. People are not going to travel for the next 6 months, and domestic tourism, international tourism, and countries economies which are dependent on tourism, like say for example, some of the European countries like Sri Lanka, countries like Thailand. I'm sure these countries will definitely have a very huge impact because of COVID-19. There is there is no second thought on this. As far as travel and tourism industry is concerned, and as I already told you before, many companies in civil aviation sector is already on the verge of collapse. So it is just a matter of time before we see many companies closing down, many companies filing bankruptcy. So the scenario is not very bright for civil aviation companies. The scenario is not very good for travel and tourism sector. But as today's speakers already told you, that there are some industries which are looking up also, like say for example the telecommunication industry is looking up. More companies, especially on online platforms, started performing very well. They are doing brisk business after lockdown, and this is going to be the order of the day in the coming months, or who knows, in the coming years, people are going to work from home, and they need a better bandwidth, and companies which are in this business is definitely going to make brisk business. And as far as the road ahead for globalization, as today's speakers already told you, that definitely it is going to have an impact, uh, but we cannot escape globalization. There is no way that globalization will come to an end. In case if I may ask a question, if I may ask a few questions to the audience, like say for example, which toothpaste do you use? Is it a global brand or a local brand? uh, which platform do we use for meetings today? Which how do we watch our favorite movies today? We watch our favorite movies on Amazon Prime or Netflix. How do we do banking transactions? Who is supporting all these businesses? So we understand that we cannot avoid globalization. We cannot wish for someone to fall, because I very clearly remember in the months of January and February, some authors have written that this is the end of China, and has China's fall has come, and this will this will create opportunities for other countries. But no sooner we found ourselves in deep trouble, much more trouble than what China faced. So never, we should not wish that some other country suffers and we can gain out of it. It can never happen, because we are a globalized world today, and every country is connected with each other. And in case if a country suffers, if some other country suffers, uh, please be sure that we are also going to suffer. So there is this fact that we have to digest. And China will definitely, many countries are trying to isolate China, but that is also something which is temporary, and people will forget it. And because they, as Professor Mishra already said, there is one thing which faced severe impact, that is the global supply chain. Because of COVID-19, if something which has hit very badly, that is global supply chain. uh, and this will alter the way companies do trade, and this will alter the way companies produce and source their items. But companies will have to run, we have to live, and we have to do business, and we have to find a new method, new way of doing business, and that is going to happen. And very soon, we will find new methods of doing business. And again, we will come back. As you must have seen, as Professor Murthy said, necessity is the mother of all invention. You must have read in papers now, Ashok Leland is planning to make ventilators. You know, would you imagine an automobile company which is purely in the business of automobile would come and get into a business of medical, which was never expected. So companies will have to be more flexible, and they have to look for new avenues. They have to look for new businesses. Sometimes, they may have to look at a completely new idea. All these things are going to happen post-COVID, but globalization will continue is my point of view. I request Professor Mishra to share his concluding remarks.
Thank you, Professor Karthik. Let me first thank Professor Raman for wonderful job that he has done, and also these 4 presenters. I think they did extremely good job. Vaishnavi, Simran, Abhijit ji, and Mr. Vineet. I think wonderful presentations by these 4 friends. And yes, you are right. I think I think it will not be a good time for globalization. It may also not be a good time for China, but we are mistaken when we say that China, will not be able to come back. That's not true. I think these things happen in industrial trade and business. But then, rightly, I think how India can get advantage out of that. So I'm reminded of a great philosopher, Krishnamurti. We used to call him K only. Great philosopher,
Yes,
great Indian philosopher. Professor
Yes,
Murthy, he's from Madnapalli, I think So Krishnamurti said one thing, very important is, as a philosopher, when somebody would ask him, sir, who
Yes,
you, then he would tell, you forget this question. You ask yourself, who am I? So that I think India think, what are the strengths of our country? Okay, if China is not doing well, but then there are countries like Vietnam. I think I understand Vietnam is doing extremely well in manufacturing. They're doing well. I think I've been to Vietnam, and I've seen. I think people over there, they work. I think extended hours. They work. One thing they're doing excellence in work. That is true. Number 3 is that they're innovative. I'm very happy to say here that Professor Karthik is working with a colleague in Mexico, and both of them are bringing out, some very important volume on innovations in different countries of the world, sugar innovations. So they've got an innovative mind. Therefore, I think for India it is an opportunity. But the question is, can we seize upon this opportunity? Can we grab this? We'll just look at that and we'll pass away. It will be a matter of that should not happen. This has been a very important, webinar, in the sense that generally we talk of general equilibrium, but it is not general equilibrium. We have to reset, I think, the equilibrium now. And this resetting is possible only when you become an ardent student of international business. And I'm very happy to say the Institute of Public Enterprise has the best teachers, I think, in this area. We have seen, I think, the performance of our 4 friends there, wonderful performance there. And they have a very good group, and good research is going on at the institute. And most of the faculty colleagues have been exposed to international teaching, international presentations. They're very, very good. They are doing presentations and publishing papers, joint papers with international counterparts. This shows the strength. And Hyderabad as a big city. Hyderabad is an export city. I think we have crossed this year. Our exports of IT have crossed 1 lakh crore. I think it's a fantastic growth. I think we have left many states behind. So then Hyderabad pharmaceutical, we are doing extremely well. This time I think our paddy has been so good. I think we have had a very big procurement of paddy, and Telangana has become rice bowl not only of India, but I'm very sure that our rice, I think, will go to South Asia. It will go to countries in Far East. It will also travel to, I think, many other countries, because the kind of rice we produce here, that rice, I think, is certainly far superior in quality, and also is very moderate, I think, in price. Given all that, I must compliment Professor Karthik for the wonderful work he had done, and also my colleague, Professor Raman, is an excellent moderator. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for that.
Answers, sir.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful session. I would like to congratulate Ms. Vaishnavi, Simran, Mr. Vineet, Mr. Abhijit for their fabulous presentation. Professor Murthy sir also has some words to say. So I'll just, before taking the questions, yes sir, Murthy sir.
See, before you go there, I put as interest, they'll get so much of seats. I paid them, so they should keep part of their seats for me. Yes. Yeah.
Very interesting session, and hearty congrats, Karthik, and our students, especially Simran, Vaishnavi, Vineet, and Abhijit. I think now the students can understand, the prospective students of IP, they can understand how the students are performing so nicely. You know, every Friday we arrange guest lectures. A very good auditorium in the institute which can accommodate 500 students. And these students who have made presentations, they are the people who are, I can see them every seminar. I used to tell them the benefits of this will be known later. Now I can see that the way they have presented, that they have got the inputs from various speakers we bring to the institute, distinguished speakers, and that will motivate students like this to make very good presentations. And this also made our students win Tata Crucible quiz competitions, in many essay writing competitions, seminars. Our students have won prizes. So what I would like to say to the prospective students of IP is that IP is a place where all faculty, director, dean, coordinators, they are with you. You can always, take them into confidence, and they will provide all facilities, whatever you require, academic and non-academic, everything. And by the way, I would like to announce to the participants that today at 4 p.m. we have another webinar on career prospects for IP PGP courses, where again director, dean, myself, and all the course coordinators will speak about the courses and what are the various career prospects for these courses, including placement coordinator. Everyone will speak. I request all these participants to again attend this webinar at 4 p.m. today. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So there are certain couple of questions that have come up. So probably Karthik sir, you will be able to answer them. Yeah. So Roshni is asking, prior to COVID, bigger nations such as America and European nations were promoting global trade and free trade, while India was slightly protecting its market then. Now India is going the other way and relaxing all its market rules, while bigger nations are moving towards protectionism, localization, etc. So what is your opinion on India's strategy now?
Actually, post-COVID, it is expected that all nations, may get into protectionism more because of their own, finances are not, not doing well. So almost all countries are in a crisis, financial crisis. So it is expected that most countries would, get into, protectionism. But I would, I would not agree completely, with the student that, prior to COVID, other countries were not into so much of protectionism. In fact, you may recall, the trade war between, China and US.
Yes.
These two countries, these two countries, they levied so much of tariffs on each other, and they were, US was worried about so much of Chinese goods flooding the US markets, and
Yes.
there were trade tensions between these two, countries, and they were announcing a lot of tariffs. In fact, Mr. Trump even spoke to our Prime Minister Modi, and in fact, he called India as a nation of high tariffs, and
Yes.
he negotiated with our Prime Minister and slashed duties on various various products, various goods, and you may also recall that India had a duty of almost 100% on Harley Davidson bikes, and after a phone call from Mr. Trump, India slashed 50% of it. So what I'm saying is, these things, are there, whether COVID is there or not. These things are always there, and countries have trade barriers. Countries have countries have tariff barriers. Countries have non-tariff barriers. But post-COVID, I think all these things will be even more severe, and countries will not mind what WTO says, because WTO always prescribes that countries should not levy heavy tariffs, and it should it should allow goods and services from other countries. But post-COVID, the role of WTO will be questionable. The role of WTO will reduce after COVID is what I foresee.
Okay, okay. The next question is from Kishan Saraf. He is asking, is privatization a solution for India's economy? Like privatization in PSUs of PSUs of India is good or bad?
Maybe I request Professor Mishra to answer this question. He is an expert in this.
Mishra sir, are you online? Yes.
1 second, sir. I will ask Abdul. Just
Yeah. No, Mishra sir is online. Just wanted to check. So we'll go to the next one probably when you. So there is a question from Abhishek. How recruitment will be in financial sector after COVID? Will there be any effect on the financial sector after COVID?
No.
I think already the
Thank you,
financial
boss.
sector
Thank
is
you.
already under stress.
I'll look at it. Thank you.
The banking industry is under tremendous pressure, and
Yes, sir.
because of NPAs, many banks are already suffering. It happened pre-COVID as well. Many banks, were not doing well pre-COVID. Also, you may recall what happened to Yes Bank and
Yes.
so many other banks, including public sector banks. They are under tremendous stress, and post-COVID, there is a possibility that many companies in India they may not be able to repay the loans on time. So they need, this will put additional pressure on, the banking industry is what I feel. I request Professor Murthy maybe to, complement further on this.
Yeah. You are right, Karthik. The financial sector is going through a very difficult phase. COVID has affected all segments, so manufacturing and non-manufacturing, especially financial also. And when the economies all over the world are affected, naturally, the financial institutions, especially banks, also may get affected. But slowly, they will recover from these shocks. And, as people get onto the business, either manufacturing, small scale and medium enterprises, and agriculture also going up in a big way. And the country has totally realized that we have to be very careful, and we also have to plan for such pandemic situations in future. I think this has taught a very good lesson with regard to being very hygienic, healthy, and investment you have to make in R&D, and investment you have to make in health, and also the way education is delivered, teaching programs are delivered, how they get affected because of the pandemic. So it has, on the one hand, it has created a problem. At the same time, it has thrown open the opportunities. So people and the governments are able to meet these challenges. I am sure there will not be such a devastating effect as the question was. There are some.
Okay. Mishra sir, there is a question from Kishan Saraf. He's asking, is privatization a solution for India's economy? And what you can say about privatization in PSUs? In India, is it good or bad?
See, privatization is only, one form of making public sector efficient. See, what happens is that, there is a scale. On that scale, on the one hand, you have privatization, on the other hand, you have public sector. So there has got to be a mix. You can't have any economy, even in the days of, heydays of privatization. You take UK also. You take US, 25% of GDP of US comes from public sector. I'm talking of US. India. Now, when you talk of India, then we see only 15 to 17% of GDP is coming from public sector. So, you have a very large informal sector. There are certain services. Supposing the public sector would not have been, during the days of COVID, what would have happened? Whether we would have this one-day Bharat flights, whether we could have had these number of trains running from here and there, whether we could have moved goods, I think, from one place to another place, or hospitals, public sector hospitals, they are treating the patients. So what would have happened, I think, if public sector would not have been there, you could have imagined, I think, any amount of problem, which we would have had. It's only public sector banks, I think, Murthy was talking. I was just a couple of minutes before, there's a call from Canada. And I was talking to a Canadian friend. And, they said that private sector could not deliver the goods. And then they brought the public sector in force, and public sector took up the challenge. And in spaces, spaces like Victoria, then the capital of Canada, I think, everywhere, the was not able to deliver. So privatization, yes, you should do. You have to know, I think, which sectors are not strategic, which sectors are there where private sector can come faster and take up. For instance, steel industry is there. We see, I think, partly Tatas are there, but then we could not have had, much of it. You take atomic research, private sector is not coming. So you have to see the areas, one thing. So the whole effort is that we should bring in private sector, we should bring in, foreign investment in that, but we should create conditions for their work, one thing. Number two, when they come, they should know that they are coming in areas which have very long gestation period. In private sector is in areas the gestation period is very small. You invest money now and you start getting return from tomorrow. Public sector is going in areas where you invest money now and return will come out to 20, 24, 20, say 10 to 15 years. So you have to see, I think, create a ground for private sector to come. We find that in India, private sector is very, very shy. They are not coming in areas where gestation period is very long, where there are risks are there, so tremendous risks are there. There you require, high amount of technology. R&D, for instance, what will I was, on a PhD Viva of IIT Madras 3 days back. And what comes out from that PhD Viva, it was on block shareholding. That PhD is on block shareholding. And what has been found is that private sector, wherever they have gone, they have not put money in R&D. R&D spending in private sector is very, very bad. You talk of electronics now. You talk of, let us say, pharma. And you'll find, I think, most of the R&D investment, they have come, I think, in the case of public sector, they made it compulsory to put 2.5 to 3% of their sales in R&D. On the whole itself, India as a whole is lagging behind in R&D investment, 0.65% of GDP as compared to 3.5% of China, about 5 or 6% of US. But within that 0.65% also, a major chunk goes to public sector. Major chunk is not coming from private sector. So I'll say that the question is of investment. Unfortunately, whatever money we invested in public sector, now we are disinvesting and putting in these kind of schemes. And we are, but this gap, which has come, when we disinvest, then the gap comes. This gap must be made good by the private sector. Private sector investment, the amount of money which should come from private sector is not that much as it should have been. And that the reason state had to come forward, because unless you invest, then you can't, you can't get, your production lines, you can't create jobs, you can't create, the basic infrastructure on which, private sector can come and industries, abroad can come. Therefore, I think you have to go case by case and see what can be privatized, what can't be privatized. That is one thing. You just can't have, one size fits all, that you take a dictum, that you privatize and throw everything to the wind. That's not possible. As I was telling you, today, supposingly we would have done that, what would have happened? What would have happened? I think, okay, some NGOs are giving food, to COVID affected and migrants, etc. They are giving. But what about investments in R&D? What about investments in steel? What about investment in the road? What about investments in civil aviation? Air India has done. Air India has done so much. What about the other airlines? Why didn't they come forward? If Air India, though we want to privatize Air India, nobody is coming forward to buy Air India, despite that it has got it is mine of wealth, as somebody told. One of the Minister of Civil Aviation, Mr. Hardeep Puri, told that it is mine of gold. But why people are coming? They don't want to come to mine of gold, because to get gold you have to go deeper and deeper, 3 to 4 kilometers down the earth. But when they want to go to coal, not gold, because coal is just half a kilometer down. They don't want to go 3 to 4 or 10 kilometers. You get, that's the question, I think, You have to wait, I think, for returns. One thing. Number two, you have to go in very hard sectors. That is two. Number three, you have to take very high amount of risk. Demand may be there, demand may not be there. There's so many things. I think it's a very interesting question. But the whole that you can Go case by case. You can't, do blanket privatization. You can't have blanket public sector. You have to have a mix, like right and left leg, right and left hands, like right and left eye. I think we can't take away one eye. We can't take away one leg. If you ampute one leg, then what will happen? You can't walk. If you take away one hand, then what will you do? Accepting, I understand there is some cricketer. The cricketer does bowling by one hand, by one. There was a picture I saw. In that picture, we had who was that? Cricket. That became we teach that case. That has come as a case where where there is a team of cricketers and they challenge the white people.
The Lagan movie, sir.
Lagan. So in Lagan, you had in Lagan, this Khan brought out the person, and people want to discard him, but he told no, you keep him because you see he will do the kind of bowling. Nobody will understand like Dusra kind of thing which Muralidharan does in Sri Lanka.
Exactly. Yes.
So yes, we require. I think we may have. But in the economies, on this hand and that hand. In economics, you always talk one hand, on the other hand. We require both the hands. Without both the hands, both the eyes, both the legs, and even heart, you can see heart also right ventricle and left ventricle. Without heart, can you do one? You take the kidney, again 2 parts. Can you do that? No. So let us not be an ideologue. Let us be very, very practical people. Even Canada I was talking, America I was talking, Russia is okay. China is saying so much. In China there are 1,500 enterprises, and Chinese investment is 20 times bigger, more than the Indian investment in public sector.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for that very elaborate answer. There is one question from Rohan Raj. He's asking, as IEP provides dual specialization, can I choose international business and marketing?
Always you can do. Always you can do. You can triple specialization. Two are formal, but third one also you can pursue on your own. We will help you. Nobody can help a learner. Nobody can stop stop a helper. Learner learning. Nobody can stop.
Okay, I'll take the last couple 2 questions here. This is Ananya Reddy asking about, can you talk about the impact on dollar rate and currency value of India due to the change in the global trade because of the virus issue?
See, it will always go down because American dollar is becoming stronger and stronger. Let me tell you this. American dollar is becoming stronger and stronger because American economy has started doing better. Indian economy, I think, there will be a reset, I think, in the dollar, rupee, kind of thing. We already reached, I think, 74, 75 rupees. Always, I think, every day there's an oscillation, 20, 30 paisa. Though we have reserves, I think, we have about $374 billion, reserves are there. But again, the question you can't compare with China. When you talk of China, then you find about 5 to 6 times more, I think, reserve than here. Then Chinese investments are there in treasury bills, etc. Then the rate of growth, I think, productivity, I think, is very, very high. Then, export, import things, I think they're exporting, I think, to many more countries. Now, given all, it will take time for us, I think. But it is good, I think. It is good. In my view, I think it is good that, rupee is depreciating. Because when rupee depreciates, then it will be possible for us to export more and more.
With this, I would like to end this webinar. I would request all the students that at 4 o'clock, there is webinar regarding career growth, career prospects of PGP courses. You had multiple queries in the prior webinars relating to placements, choosing of electives. So I request all the students who join this particular webinar, and all your answers will be cleared in this particular webinar. I also request students to bring their parents along in this webinar. They are most welcome to join on this webinar. So at 4 o'clock, you can use the same link that have been shared today morning to join that particular webinar. So the webinar is at 4 p.m. So we'll see you in that particular webinar. I thank all the panelists, okay, Mishra sir, Murthy sir, Karthik sir, okay, student community, Simran, Abhijit, Vaishnavi, and Mr. Vineet, our alumnus working at Deloitte. I thank all of you. Thank you for joining. Okay.